Have you ever wondered what invisible forces shape our world, lurking in every breath we take? Picture this. Trillions of viruses swirling around us right now, some terrifying, others beautifully essential to life itself. Tonight, in 100 terrifying and beautiful facts about viruses to fall asleep to, we'll drift into their mysterious realm with calm, mind-blowing stories that might just change how you see the tiniest things. From ancient origins, hidden helpers in our bodies, let's unwind together. If you love these soothing dives into science, hit subscribe to our channel for more bedtime wonders. Now settle in as we begin our gentle journey. Hey there, friend. Imagine curling up under your blanket, the room dim and quiet, and me whispering about a world so small you can't see it, but it's everywhere. You know, viruses are like these sneaky little particles, not quite alive, but oh so powerful. They're basically bits of genetic code wrapped in a protein coat, floating around, waiting for a host. Think of them as nature's hackers, slipping into cells to rewrite the rules. But here's the beauty. They've been around forever, shaping evolution in ways that blow your mind. Remember that time you had a cold? That was a virus saying hello, but don't worry, most are harmless drifters in the ocean of life. I mean, picture this. In your own body, right now, there are viruses that live peacefully, helping your gut bacteria thrive. Yeah, they're not all villains. Some even protect plants from drought or make oceans sparkle with life. It's terrifying how one tiny virus can topple empires. Think of the Black Death or modern pandemics. But beautiful too because they've pushed us to invent vaccines, saving billions. They're survivors, enduring extreme heat, cold, even space. As you relax, let this sink in. Viruses outnumber every other life form on Earth, a silent symphony playing in the background of existence. They're the ultimate minimalists, no cells, no metabolism, just pure efficiency. And get this, scientists found viruses in permafrost that's 30,000 years old, still viable. It's like time capsules from ancient worlds. In a way, they're storytellers, carrying genetic tales across species. So as your eyelids grow heavy, feel the calm wonder of this tiny universe inside and around you. They're not out to get us, they're part of the grand dance. Breathe easy, friend. We're all connected through these invisible threads. Oh, listen to this one. Have you ever thought about that very first moment a virus found you? It's like a quiet encounter in the vastness of your body. Picture yourself as a baby, fresh to the world, and along comes this minuscule invader, maybe from a sneeze or a touch. It latches onto a cell in your nose or throat, using its spikes like keys to unlock the door. Boom! It's inside, hijacking your cell's machinery to make copies of itself. But hey, it's not always scary. That first virus might have been a harmless one, teaching your immune system to fight smarter. You see, viruses are picky daters. They only bond with specific cells. For humans, it's often respiratory ones, slipping in on air currents. Imagine it whispering, "Hey cell, mind if I borrow your replicator?" And just like that, it multiplies, but your body rallies, white blood cells swooping in like heroes. It's a beautiful battle, evolution's way of keeping us tough. That first discovery shapes you, leaving antibodies as souvenirs, memories for future fights. Terrifying? Sure, if it's something like Ebola ravaging from within. But beautiful when it's a vaccine virus, a tamed version that trains without harm. Think deeper. Viruses might have jump-started life, delivering genes that sparked complexity. In you, that initial meeting could have integrated viral DNA into your genome. Yeah, 8% of our DNA is ancient viruses. It's relatable, right? Like how a bad day teaches resilience. As you drift off, feel that gentle thrill. Your body's a fortress. Viruses, the uninvited guests who sometimes bring gifts. They're explorers, probing life's boundaries. No drama, just the quiet truth of coexistence in this vast, viral tapestry. Wow, settle in for this. Viruses have been around way longer than those massive dinosaurs stomping the earth. We're talking billions of years, back when life was just soupy oceans and single cells. These guys predated everything complex, maybe even helping create it by shuffling genes like cosmic dealers. Imagine a time before trees, animals, or us. Viruses floating in primordial seas, infecting the first bacteria, forcing evolution to speed up. It's mind-blowing. Without them, we might not exist. Picture an ancient virus as a simple code packet surviving eons in ice or rock. Fossils? Nah, they're too tiny, but their genetic fingerprints are in every living thing. Dinosaurs ruled for 165 million years, but viruses? Try 4 billion. They've seen continents shift, asteroids crash, yet they adapt flawlessly. Terrifying in their persistence, like how retroviruses embedded in our ancestors' DNA, influencing brain development. Beautiful too, as they balance ecosystems, culling overpopulated species gently over time. Relate it to your life. Just as old family stories shape who you are, these viral elders molded biology. A virus from the dinosaur era could still lurk in permafrost, ready to thaw. But don't fret. Most are ocean dwellers, harmless to us. They're time travelers, carrying secrets from Earth's dawn. As you relax, hear their whisper. We've been here forever, weaving life's web. It's deep, huh? In your breath, echoes of that ancient world persist. No rush, just eternal cycles turning slowly in the night. Hey, close your eyes and imagine dipping your finger into the ocean. Just one tiny drop clings there. But inside, millions of viruses swirling like stars in a miniature galaxy. Yeah, seawater's packed with them, up to 10 million per milliliter. They're not out to hurt. Most target bacteria, keeping the sea's microbiome in check. It's terrifying how abundant they are, more viruses in the oceans than stars in the observable universe. But beautiful because they recycle nutrients, fueling plankton that produce half our oxygen. Think of it like this. That drop is a bustling city, viruses as regulators, preventing bacterial overgrowth. They burst cells open, releasing carbon and nitrogen back into the food chain. Relatable? Like how gut viruses balance your digestion. Same principle, scaled up. Scientists say ocean viruses influence climate, stirring up clouds by infecting algae. One drop holds diversity rivaling rainforests, each virus a unique shape, from icosahedrons to filaments. Deep dive, these marine viruses evolve fast, adapting to hosts in ways that spark innovation. A phage virus might save coral from bleaching, injecting helpful genes. As you unwind, feel the calm vastness. Your body's like that drop, teeming with viral life. No fear, just wonder at nature's efficiency. They're silent guardians turning death into life cycles. Breathe with the waves in that single drop. Eternity dances. All right, here's a puzzle to ponder. As you settle deeper, are viruses alive? Scientists say no because they lack cells, can't reproduce alone, or metabolize energy. They're like zombies, inert until they hijack a host. But wait, or do they? Some argue yes, with their evolution, replication, and adaptation. It's terrifying ambiguity, not dead, not alive, just existing in limbo. Beautiful too, challenging our definitions of life. Imagine a virus as a message in a bottle, genetic instructions floating until found. It needs a cell to live, but once inside, it commands like a boss. Relate it. Ever felt like you're only half yourself without coffee? Viruses are similar, dependent, yet transformative. Giant viruses blur lines with genes for protein synthesis, almost cellular. Found in amoebas, they're bigger than some bacteria, hinting at ancient origins. Deeper still, viruses might be life's precursors, stripped-down survivors from RNA worlds. They evolve faster than anything, mutating to evade defenses. In you, endogenous viruses activate during pregnancy, aiding placenta formation, essential for birth. So, alive or not, they're integral. As eyelids flutter, embrace the mystery. Life's not black and white. They're bridges between non-living and living, sparking debates that enrich science. No answers needed tonight, just gentle curiosity drifting you to sleep. Come closer, let me tell you about something wild. There are viruses so enormous that when scientists first saw them under the microscope, they thought they were looking at bacteria. These are the giant viruses, the ones that laugh at the old rule book. Most viruses are tiny, 20 to 300 nanometers, so small they slip through the finest filters. But then, in the early 2000s, researchers cooling off in a tower in England found mimivirus, a beast 1,000 times bigger by volume than the flu virus. It has more than 1,000 genes, the flu has about 12. It's so huge that smaller viruses can catch it, like a shark being eaten by a great white. Yes, there are viruses that infect other viruses, imagine that. A hidden food chain inside the invisible world. These giants have hair-like fibers on their capsids, looking like tiny dandelions ready to seed. They were hiding everywhere, in the slime of contact lenses, in Antarctic ice, in the guts of amoebas chilling in pond water. One called Pandora virus is shaped like an amphora from ancient Greece, beautiful and strange. Another, Pithovirus, woke up after 30,000 years frozen in Siberian permafrost, stretched, yawned, and infected an amoeba like it was just another Tuesday. 30,000 years, that's older than cave paintings, older than woolly mammoths walking beside humans. It sat there, perfectly preserved, waiting for the world to warm up enough to let it play again. People panic about thawing permafrost releasing ancient diseases, and yes, that's possible, but most of these old giants only care about amoebas, not us. Still the thought lingers. Somewhere under the ice, there are sleeping beauties and sleeping monsters that remember a planet without people. And the craziest part? Every time we find a bigger one, the definition of virus stretches a little more. Some of these giants carry genes to make their own proteins, something only living things were supposed to do. They blur the lines so hard that biologists argue over coffee whether we need a new kingdom of life just for them. Next time you look at a snowflake melting on your glove, remember, there could be a city of giants in there, dreaming of warm amoebas. It's terrifying, but also strangely comforting. The Earth keeps secrets older than memory, and sometimes, when the temperature is just right, those secrets stretch and open their eyes. Now let's go back to something gentler. You've probably had a cold, right? That little sniffle that makes you reach for tissues and hot tea. That was a rhinovirus, one of the sweetest little troublemakers on the planet. There are over 100 types, and they love the cool temperature of your nose. 33 degrees Celsius is their perfect holiday. They don't want to kill you. They just want a short vacation in your upper airways. They land on a cell, pop their RNA inside, make 1,000 copies in 8 hours, and then those new viruses burst out like kids leaving school at the bell. You sneeze, and the party moves to the next person. But here's what I love. Your body treats them like old, seasonal friends. By the time you're an adult, you've met most of them already. That's why grown-ups get fewer colds than kids. Your immune system has a photo album of every rhinovirus that ever crashed on your couch. And the virus itself, it's shaped like a perfect 20-sided diamond, an icosahedron so pretty that crystallographers frame pictures of it. It's basically nature's origami. Sometimes I imagine them floating through the air in winter, wearing tiny scarves, looking for warm noses. They cause misery for a week, sure, but they also remind us we're alive. Taste goes away, smells vanish, and suddenly we remember how precious those senses are. A cold is the universe's way of giving you a gentle hug and saying, slow down, drink something warm, stay in bed and read. In a strange way, it's caring, and when it's gone, you stand outside and breathe deep, and the air smells brand new again. Thank you, little rhinovirus, for the reminder. Let's talk about the good guys now, the ones that never make the news. Inside your body, right this second, there are viruses whose only job is to protect you. They're called bacteriophages, literally bacteria eaters, and they look like lunar-landers from the 1960s, a hexagonal head, a long tail, and 6 spidery legs. They hunt harmful bacteria the way knights hunt dragons. They land on a bad bacterium, drill a hole with their tail, inject their DNA, and turn the bacterium into a virus factory. 40 minutes later, the bacterium explodes, releasing 100 new phages to continue the patrol. During World War I, before antibiotics, doctors in France and Russia saved thousands of soldiers from gangrene by pouring phage cocktails onto infected wounds. It worked beautifully. The bacteria died, the good tissue healed, and the phages quietly disappeared once their job was done. They're still used today in Georgia, the country, not the state, where people drink phage mixtures like probiotic yogurt to stay healthy. Imagine that, a medicine that's alive, targeted, and leaves when the enemy is gone. No resistance problems, no side effects. There are phages that only attack cholera, others that hunt salmonella, some that specialize in the exact strain of acne bacteria that ruins teenage years. Scientists are teaching them new tricks now, programming them like tiny robots to deliver healing genes. And the best part? There are oceans of them waiting for us. Every time we sequence a new one, it's like finding a new superhero. So while you sleep tonight, know that microscopic knights in protein armor are walking the walls of your intestines, keeping the peace. You've got your own private army, and it's been there since the day you were born. Picture a meadow full of wildflowers, poppies, daisies, tulips swaying in the breeze. Those colors, those perfect petals, a lot of that beauty comes from viruses. Back in the 1500s, Dutch painters went crazy for tulips with flame-like streaks of red on white. People paid more for one bulb than for a house. Those streaks, caused by a gentle virus that breaks the pigment in just the right way. The virus doesn't kill the tulip, it paints it. Growers tried for centuries to recreate the effect, not knowing an invisible artist was doing the work. Viruses do this with orchids, roses, even the mosaic patterns on some maize leaves that Native American farmers selected for beauty thousands of years ago. There's a virus in petunias that turns purple flowers white in delicate star shapes. Another one gives grapes those deep, rich colors we love in red wine. Without viruses quietly redecorating, our gardens would be a lot plainer. And it's not just looks. Some viruses help plants survive drought by changing how they manage water, or protect them from harsher viruses the way a mild cold protects you from flu. Farmers in the 1920s noticed that tobacco plants infected with a mild strain of tobacco mosaic virus grew better when the deadly strain came along, natural vaccination. Nature figured out vaccines long before we did, so next time you stop to smell a rose or buy a bunch of streaky tulips, whisper a little thank you to the tiny Picasso living inside the cells. Beauty and terror share the same brush, and sometimes the painting is breathtaking. Finally, for tonight, let's remember a winter 100 years ago when the world stopped breathing. It was 1918, and a virus no one could see swept across the planet like a silent hurricane. They called it Spanish flu, though it didn't start there. It killed more people in 1 year than the Black Death did in a century, 50 million, maybe 100 million. It shut down cities, closed churches, turned parks into tent hospitals. Soldiers in the trenches of World War I wrote home saying the virus was scarier than bullets. But here's the part they don't put in textbooks. That same catastrophe gave us modern medicine. Because the world was so frightened, governments poured money into labs. Scientists learned how to grow viruses, how to make vaccines, how to track outbreaks. Blood banks were invented when doctors tried to save flu patients with plasma from survivors. Intensive care units, mechanical ventilators, public health departments, almost everything we used to fight later pandemics started as a desperate response to that one virus. And something beautiful happened too. Strangers nursed strangers. Neighbors left food on doorsteps. Boy Scouts pulled wagons delivering medicine because adults were too sick to walk. The virus was merciless, but it revealed how tender humans can be when everything is stripped away. That virus is gone now, extinct in the wild, but pieces of it live on in every seasonal flu shot, protecting us still. It was a monster, yes, but it forced us to grow up as a species. Sometimes the darkest nights produce the brightest stars. As you drift off, feel the quiet gratitude. Even the worst storms leave gifts behind if we're brave enough to open them. Sleep gently. The world is older and kinder than it sometimes seems. Close your eyes and come with me to the bottom of a Siberian ice core 30,000 years deep. That's where they found it in 2014, a virus the size of a small bacterium, perfectly preserved in permafrost older than the last ice age. They called it Pithovirus sibericum. When scientists thawed a tiny piece of that ancient soil and dropped it into a dish with modern amoebas, the virus woke up like someone turning over in bed after a long nap. It stretched, recognized a cell, and started doing exactly what its ancestors did before humans invented the wheel. 30,000 years. That's longer than every story we've ever told each other, longer than every pyramid and cathedral, longer than language itself. And it still worked. The scary part is how many more are down there. Permafrost covers a quarter of the northern hemisphere, and it's melting fast. Every summer, another layer thaws and releases its prisoners. Most of these ancient viruses only care about amoebas or algae. They look at us the way we look at rocks, not food. But some researchers quietly worry that one day the ice might cough up something that remembers mammals. We don't know. What we do know is that these viruses are time travelers. They carry genetic postcards from a world that had never seen a human footprint. Some have genes we've never seen before or since. They're living fossils made of code instead of bone. Imagine holding a snowflake that fell when woolly mammoths still roamed. Inside that flake might be a sleeping giant that watched the mammoths die. It doesn't hate us. It doesn't even know we exist yet. It's just waiting for warmth and the right cell to say hello. There's something peaceful about that patience, something almost holy. The earth keeps libraries colder than any freezer, and every now and then it opens a page and reads aloud. Tonight, while you sleep, part of the planet is still dreaming in ice older than dreams. Now let's talk about something that happens to every single one of us every single day without announcement. Right now, as you lie there listening to my voice, your body is fighting a war so quiet you can't feel it. Viruses are landing on your skin, slipping into your throat with every breath, hitching rides on the dust that settles on your pillow. Most get destroyed before they even unpack. Your skin is a moat of acid and salt. Your mucus is sticky flypaper. Your blood is full of patrolling soldiers that learned their trade from every cold you ever had. But some make it inside, and when they do, the night shift begins. While you're dreaming, your fever might climb a degree or two without waking you. White blood cells swell and multiply like city lights coming on at dusk. Little factories in your lymph nodes churn out antibodies tailored to the exact shape of the intruder. It's a ballet performed in total darkness, molecules locking together like puzzle pieces, viruses being wrapped in protein nets and carried away. Sometimes you wake up with a scratchy throat and never know you won the battle before breakfast. I find this incredibly comforting. Your body never sleeps, not really. It keeps watch the way the ocean keeps rocking long after the storm has passed. Even when you feel weak, even when you're down with something nasty, remember that beneath the surface a miracle is running on autopilot. Billions of years of evolution handed you this gift, an immune system that fights in its sleep so you can rest. Let that thought settle over you like an extra blanket. You are protected by something ancient and fierce and utterly devoted to you. There's a virus that only wants to help baby koalas survive, and its story is one of the sweetest things nature ever wrote. When a koala joey is born, it's the size of a jelly bean and blind. It crawls into its mother's pouch and starts drinking milk, but koala milk isn't enough by itself. Eucalyptus leaves are toxic, full of poison, and almost no nutrition. So how does a tiny koala stomach handle them? Mum has the answer. For a few weeks every year, she produces a special sticky poop called pap. It's basically a smoothie of half-digested leaves and billions of friendly bacteria, plus one very important virus. This virus lives quietly in the mother's gut and only becomes active when it's time to pass the baton. It infects the joey's intestinal cells and gently rewires them, turning on genes that let the baby break down eucalyptus oils. Without that viral handoff, the joey would starve, even with a full belly of leaves. The virus isn't there to cause disease, it's there to deliver the instruction manual for being a koala. Once the job is done, it fades away until the next generation needs it. Think about that the next time you see a koala video. Those sleepy grey teddy bears owe their entire existence to a virus that acts like a patient librarian, quietly handing over the right book at the right time. Nature is full of these secret partnerships, mothers and viruses working together so babies can eat poison and call it dinner. It's love written in DNA, passed from pouch to pouch for millions of years. While you drift tonight, picture a tiny koala curled against its mother's warmth, receiving a gift no one can see. That same quiet generosity happens inside you every day. Under the waves, far deeper than sunlight reaches, there are viruses that make their own light. They infect glowing bacteria and algae in the abyss, and when those hosts burst open, the darkness fills with soft blue-green fireworks. Sailors have written about milky seas for centuries, whole oceans glowing like moonlit snow. Satellites now confirm it happens in patches the size of countries. The cause? A gentle virus persuading bacteria to throw a rave before they die. But my favourite are the ones that live around hydrothermal vents where water is boiling hot and black smokers spew minerals like chimneys. Down there, viruses shimmer in heat that would cook any other life. Some coat themselves in tiny crystals of iron, turning into living jewels. Others team up with heat-loving archaea and swap genes the way neighbours swap recipes. The light they make isn't for show, it's a language. In a world with no sun, glowing means I'm here, or come closer, or back off. Viruses learn to speak in photons before fish ever had eyes. Imagine drifting through that warm darkness, surrounded by slow-motion snow of glowing corpses. Every burst is a virus finishing its life cycle and leaving beauty behind. It's the ultimate sacrifice. I will end so the light can continue. Up here we need stars. Down there they make their own. And the ocean keeps the secret, rocking its glowing children to sleep 2 miles beneath the surface. Here's something gentle that lives closer than you think. Most viruses inside a healthy person aren't visitors, they're residents. They moved in years ago and never left. About 8% of your DNA, tens of thousands of genes, is old viral wreckage. Some of it is junk, like abandoned houses. But some of those houses still have the lights on. They help build the placenta when you were in your mother's womb. They switch on during stress to protect your brain. They teach baby immune cells what enemy looks like so the real enemies get recognized faster. There's a virus called HERVK that wakes up in some people with ALS or schizophrenia, but in others it stays quiet and maybe even protective. Another one, HERVW, makes a protein called syncytin that literally fuses cells together to form the barrier between mother and child. Without an ancient virus deciding to settle down and become human, none of us would have been born. We are, all of us, walking monuments to successful infections. It's like carrying your great-great-grandparents inside every cell. They changed their ways, stopped replicating, and decided to help instead. They became part of the family. When you kiss someone goodnight, when you hug your kid, when your heart beats, tiny echoes of those long-ago viruses are still working, still keeping the peace. You're not just you. You're a collaboration that started millions of years before your first breath. And tonight, as every cell in your body settles into rest, those quiet ancestors are resting too, satisfied that the partnership is still going strong. Sleep inside their embrace. You were never alone. Let me take you to a quiet forest clearing at dusk where the air smells of pine and damp earth. A caterpillar the color of jade is munching on a tomato leaf, perfectly content. Then, without warning, its world changes forever. A tiny wasp no bigger than a freckle lands on its back and slips a needle-thin ovipositor through the skin. Inside that needle is not just eggs, but a virus, a brachyvirus that has been the wasp's partner for 60 million years. The virus floods the caterpillar's body like a whispered command. Don't fight back! Let my babies eat you alive. And the caterpillar obeys. Its immune system shuts down like lights going out in a city. It stops growing, stops moving, becomes a living lunchbox. The wasp larvae hatch inside and feed, slowly, carefully avoiding vital organs so their host stays fresh. When they're ready to pupate, they chew their way out, spin cocoons on the caterpillar's back, and here's the truly eerie part. The caterpillar, now hollowed and dying, stands guard over the cocoons. It waves its head at birds and ants, protecting the very creatures that killed it. Scientists call this zombie behavior bodyguard manipulation. The caterpillar dies without ever laying its own eggs, all because a virus rewrote its brain. But there's poetry in the horror. This partnership keeps wasp numbers stable, which keeps caterpillar numbers stable, which keeps tomato plants alive. Without the zombie trick, wasps would disappear and caterpillars would strip forests bare. It's a love story written in sacrifice. The virus doesn't want the caterpillar dead too soon. It wants it useful. When I think about it, I feel the same shiver I get from fairy tales, where the witch's spell is both curse and protection. Nature doesn't do good or evil, it does balance, even when the balance looks like a horror movie. Tonight, if you hear a soft rustle outside your window, maybe it's just a caterpillar standing guard under the moon, dreaming someone else's dream. Now look closer at the ones that do land on you. Viruses are obsessed with geometry. Most of them fold themselves into 20-sided diamonds called icosahedrons, the same shape kids use for dice in board games. Others twist into long helices like DNA itself, or stack into tubes, moons, or bottles. Under an electron microscope, they look like alien jewelry, perfect, cold, and impossibly beautiful. The tobacco mosaic virus forms rods so straight and regular that scientists in the 1930s used them as rulers to calibrate their microscopes. Poliovirus is a tiny sphere studded with canyons and peaks like a planet in miniature. The protein shell, the capsid, has to be strong enough to protect the genetic cargo, yet delicate enough to open exactly when it touches the right cell. It's origami made of amino acids, folding itself in seconds without any hands. Some viruses add tails, spikes, fibers that wave like seaweed. One family, the tectiviruses, even build a tiny cannon inside their shell that fires DNA into bacteria like a harpoon. When crystallographers grow virus crystals, they shine like diamonds under X-rays, giving us the sharpest pictures we've ever had of any biological object. There's something deeply calming about this perfection. In a world where everything living is a little messy, viruses are flawless. They remind me of snowflakes, no two exactly alike, yet every one obeying the same quiet laws of symmetry. When you're falling asleep, picture yourself shrinking smaller and smaller until you're floating among them, drifting through a silent cathedral made of protein and light. They're terrifying only from far away. Up close, they're art. Let's go back to Siberia again, but this time to a different layer of ice. In 2003, scientists drilled into Lake Vostok, buried under 4 kilometers of Antarctic ice that hasn't seen the sky for 15 million years. They found viruses, not just a few, hundreds of types, perfectly preserved. A few years later, another team revived a 30,000-year-old carnation virus from ice near a frozen squirrel burrow. They infected modern tobacco plants with it, and the leaves curled the same way they did in the Pleistocene. More recently, they found an 8,000-year-old virus in caribou feces frozen in Greenland. It still worked. These aren't rare accidents. Permafrost is a freezer full of time capsules. Every ancient flu, every forgotten pox, every virus that infected a woolly rhino might still be down there waiting for spring. Some will never wake up. Their hosts are extinct. Others might recognize something close enough, a deer, a muskox, maybe us. The scary movies write themselves, but the truth is gentler and stranger. Most of these viruses spent their entire evolutionary lives in a world without humans, and they're not suddenly going to become supervillains. Still, every time the tundra belches methane and another chunk collapses into the sea, something ancient stretches and remembers warmth. I find it comforting in a cosmic way. The planet keeps perfect records. Nothing is ever truly lost. Your breath tonight mingles with air that once passed through a mammoth's lungs, and somewhere under the ice, a virus that knew that mammoth is still dreaming. Time isn't a line, it's a circle, and every circle has a quiet center where everything waits. You know that little tickle at the back of your throat every November? That's probably a cold virus coming home for the holidays. Colds are the most common illness on Earth, and they've been with us forever. Cave paintings show people rubbing their noses 30,000 years ago. The ancient Egyptians wrote about the sniffles that come with the north wind. Every year, the same familiar gang shows up. Rhinoviruses, coronaviruses, adenoviruses, RSV. They don't want to kill you, they just want a week of free room and board in your upper airways. They love cool weather because your nose is cooler than the rest of your body, and that's their sweet spot. They float in on tiny droplets when someone coughs in the grocery store, land on the elevator button you press, survive on your phone screen for hours. Then one day you feel that telltale itch, and you know the visit has begun. For 7 days your life smells of menthol and chicken soup. You cancel plans, wrap yourself in blankets, and watch old movies. In a way, it's the closest thing modern life has to a forced Sabbath. And here's the gentle part. Most adults only get 2 or 3 colds a year because our immune systems keep a scrapbook. Every cold you ever had is filed away. Antibodies ready, like old friends who remember exactly how to wrestle that particular virus to the ground. Children get 6 to 10 because they're still filling the pages. By the time you're 60, you've met almost every common cold virus there is. That's why grandparents rarely get sick. They've already paid their dues. So when the next one arrives, greet it like an old acquaintance who only stays a week and leaves you with stronger defenses. It's nature's way of saying, slow down, rest, drink tea, let the world turn without you for a few days. There's tenderness hidden in the tissues. Let's end tonight with one of the quietest love stories on Earth. In the 1940s, a rabbit disease called myxomatosis was tearing through Australia. Introduced to control feral rabbits, it killed 99% of them in the first years. Rabbits went blind, swollen, stumbling in circles until they died. It was cruel and effective. But then something beautiful happened. A few rabbits survived. Their babies survived a little more. Within a decade, the death rate fell from 99% to 30%. The virus didn't disappear, it softened. Scientists watched in awe as the same virus that once caused horrific swelling began causing milder symptoms. Rabbits with stronger resistance lived long enough to breed, and viruses that killed too fast ran out of hosts before they could spread. Over generations, the virus evolved to keep its host alive longer, because a dead rabbit can't pass you on. The gentlest strains won. Today, myxomatosis in Australia is almost a childhood illness for rabbits. Most recover and live normal lives. The same thing happened with the rabbit virus in Europe, and we see it everywhere. HIV becoming less lethal in untreated populations, flu strains burning out if they kill too quickly. Evolution doesn't reward cruelty, it rewards what works. The virus and the rabbit negotiated a peace treaty written in blood and fur, and neither side even knew they were talking. That's the secret most people miss. Viruses don't want apocalypse, they want tomorrow. A virus that kills everything has no future. The ones that learn to live with us are the ones that get to stay. So when you hear scary headlines, remember the rabbits on that quiet island, learning to share the world with something that once terrified them. Peace is possible, even between the smallest enemies. Tonight, may that same gentle negotiation happen in your dreams, between every cell and every visitor, until morning finds everything quietly, perfectly balanced. Sleep soft, dear friend. The world is learning kindness, one invisible handshake at a time. Close your eyes and feel it. Right now, at this very second, you are the center of a universe that never sleeps. More viruses live on and inside your body than there are people who have ever walked the earth. 10 times more, 100 times more. They coat your skin like an invisible dusting of stars. They drift in the warm air between your eyelashes. They surf the rivers of mucus in your nose and throat. Most of them are doing absolutely nothing dramatic. They're just there, quiet passengers on the ship that is you. Your skin is their desert, your mouth their ocean, your gut their rainforest. Scientists who study this invisible ecosystem call it the human virome, and it's as unique to you as your fingerprint. The viruses on the left side of your face are different from the ones on the right. The ones that lived with you when you were 5 are mostly gone, replaced by new citizens that moved in when you kissed someone, or ate street food in Bangkok, or hugged your dog after a walk in the rain. They change when you take antibiotics, when you fall in love, when you fly across time zones. Some of them are permanent residents, bits of ancient viruses that settled into your DNA before your ancestors left Africa. Others are tourists, staying a season. A few are pickpockets looking for trouble, but the vast majority are more like birds on a telephone wire, resting, watching, singing their silent songs. If every single one of them suddenly glowed soft blue, you would shine like a galaxy lying in bed. And the beautiful truth is this: you would not be healthy without them. They train your immune system the way a gentle sparring partner trains a boxer. They keep harmful bacteria in check. They teach baby T cells the difference between self and stranger. They are the quiet gardeners pruning the microbiome so nothing grows out of control. When you wash your hands, you're not removing an enemy army, you're just rearranging the crowd. A few minutes later, new ones drift in on dust motes that sparkle in the lamplight. It's a dance that has been going on since the first human opened their eyes. You are never alone, and you are never under attack. You are simply perfectly inhabited. Let that thought settle over you like the softest blanket. You are a walking constellation, and every light is keeping you safe tonight. Now travel with me to the edge of the world, where the air is so thin it feels like breathing glass. Koalas again, but this time the grown-ups. Their entire life is built around one thing: eating eucalyptus leaves that are poisonous to almost everything else. The leaves fight back with oils that would shred your liver in days. Koalas survive because their gut is a slow-moving fermentation tank full of special bacteria that can detoxify the poison and squeeze calories from what is basically scented cardboard. But those bacteria don't come with the koala at birth. They arrive in that sticky pap I told you about earlier, and tucked inside the pap, riding shotgun, is a very particular retrovirus. This virus doesn't make the mother sick. It simply carries the genetic instruction manual that tells the koala's cells when these exact bacteria show up, let them in and help them settle. Without the virus, the bacteria would be treated as invaders and flushed out. With the virus, the door swings open and the party begins. The virus is passed from mother to baby the same way lullabies are passed, quietly, faithfully, without anyone noticing the miracle. By the time the joey is big enough to climb out of the pouch and sit in a fork of branches, munching leaves like it's the most natural thing in the world, an invisible handoff has already happened. A virus that probably infected some ancient marsupial millions of years ago decided to stay, to help instead of harm, and now every koala on Earth owes it rent. I love picturing a mother koala high in a gum tree at midnight, moonlight silver on her fur, quietly producing the fecal smoothie that will save her baby's life. Love looks like many things. Sometimes it looks like soft grey fur and black button eyes. Sometimes it looks like a virus that learned the meaning of family. Let's sink beneath the waves now, deeper than coral, deeper than fish, to a place where the water itself glows. In certain summers, usually off the coast of Somalia or in the Indian Ocean, something magical happens. A virus called Vibrio infects tiny bacteria that live in the surface water. The bacteria start to glow, a gentle turquoise bioluminescence. When the infected ones burst, the light spreads. One night the glow is a spark, the next night a city, the next night an entire sea shining like liquid starlight. From space, satellites see patches the size of Connecticut glowing soft and steady for weeks. Sailors have written about milky seas since the 1600s, whole horizons lit up with no moon in sight. Old logs describe ships gliding through water that looked like snowfields under moonlight. Modern science finally caught one in 2005 and proved it was viruses orchestrating the light show. The glow isn't random, it's communication. Healthy bacteria flash to attract fish that eat them and spread them farther. Infected ones flash brighter right before they die, a final flare that lures more hosts for the virus. It's a silent conversation in light. Come closer, join us, become the glow. Imagine lying on a boat deck in the middle of that sea. No engine, no land in sight, just the soft rocking and the water around you radiating the same color as a tropical lagoon at noon. Every tiny death adds to the beauty. Every burst of a bacterial cell is a firework for something too small to have eyes. The ocean turns itself into a night light, so its smallest citizens can find each other. And up above, the Milky Way looks down at its own reflection, galaxy greeting galaxy across the quiet water. If you ever feel insignificant, remember that the same ocean that cradles continents also spends its summer nights throwing parties made of viruses and light. You are part of that story. Walk into any forest at twilight and listen. Not with your ears, with your imagination. Every breath of wind carries viruses. They ride dust particles the way sailors once rode trade winds. A single puff of air through the canopy can lift millions of them. Viruses from moss, from mushrooms, from the lungs of deer, from the feathers of owls. They travel hundreds of kilometers before settling onto the next leaf, the next nostril, the next open flower. Some of them will never find a host and simply fall apart in sunlight, their proteins are gently unfolding like petals at dawn. Others will land exactly where they need to be. There's a virus that only infects the fungus that causes pine blister rust. Without it, whole forests would die. Another helps lichens survive acid rain. They drift on the breeze the way dandelion seeds do, except no one ever makes a wish on them. I find this movement incredibly soothing. Nothing is wasted. Every exhale from a wolf in Canada might carry a passenger that ends up in a tomato plant in Italy. The air itself is a river of stories looking for new chapters. When you stand outside tonight and feel the wind touch your face, you are being kissed by travelers that have crossed mountains and oceans just to say hello. Some will stay, most will pass through. All of them are part of the same quiet migration that has been happening since the first green leaf unfurled. You are breathing in the forest, and the forest is breathing into you. There is no border where you end and the rest of the living world begins. Only this soft, constant exchange carried on invisible wings. Now come with me to a small island off the coast of Australia in the 1950s. Rabbits, millions of them, had turned the place into a dust bowl. Someone decided to release myxoma virus to thin the population. Within months, the island became a graveyard. Blind, swollen rabbits sat in the open, unable to move, waiting to die. It was heartbreaking and effective. 99 out of 100 rabbits perished. The virus spread like gossip, leaping from warren to warren. But then the island began to heal in a way no one predicted. A few rabbits recovered. Their babies were born with slightly better resistance. At the same time, the virus started changing. The strains that killed too quickly ran out of hosts and died off. The strains that caused milder disease spread farther because their hosts lived long enough to scratch and mingle. Within 10 years, the death rate fell from 99% to around 30%. Rabbits and virus reached an understanding. The island turned green again, covered in grass and wildflowers. Rabbits hopped around with small scabs instead of tumors. The virus still lived in them, but gently, like a chronic cough instead of a death sentence. Today, if you visit Macquarie Island or the original test sites, you'll see fat, healthy rabbits and a landscape that recovered. The same uneasy peace happened in Europe with rabbit hemorrhagic disease 20 years later. Evolution doesn't like genocide, it likes leases that renew themselves. The virus learned restraint, the rabbits learned vigilance. Together they wrote a new contract. That's the part they never put in the horror documentaries. Viruses are capable of mercy when mercy serves survival. The same pattern shows up in human diseases. HIV becoming less lethal over decades in places without treatment, myxoma in rabbits, even the 1918 flu burning itself out. Life wants to continue, and the quickest way to extinction is to kill everything in sight. So the island keeps its uneasy truce, and every evening the rabbits come out to graze under a sky that once watched them die by the millions. Now they share the grass with the very thing that almost ended them. Peace is possible even after the worst beginnings. Let that settle in your heart tonight. Whatever battles are being fought in the dark, tomorrow is always negotiable. Sleep easy, dear one. The world is quietly learning how to be kind. Come with me to a place so small it has no name, a place inside a drop of pond water where something astonishing is happening right now. A bacterium is swimming along, minding its own business, when a tiny spaceship lands on its surface. This spaceship is a bacteriophage, a virus that eats other viruses. Yes, you heard that right. For decades, scientists thought viruses were the ultimate predators, the apex hunters of the microscopic world. Then, in 2023, they watched through an electron microscope as an even tinier virus attached itself to the phage, injected its DNA, and turned the hunter into the hunted. They called the new discovery a virophage, a virus eater. The phage keeps trying to infect its usual bacterial target, but now it's sick. Its reproduction slows, its tail weakens, and many of the baby phages it makes are duds. The virophage is gentle cruelty. It doesn't kill the phage outright, it just makes it tired, less dangerous. In the wild, this means the original bacterium survives longer and the whole pond ecosystem stays in balance. It's like discovering that lions have their own parasites that keep lion numbers just low enough so the antelopes don't disappear. Since that first sighting, dozens of virophages have been found, some in Antarctic lakes, some in your own gut. One of them, Sputnik, looks like a tiny satellite with spiky legs. Another, Zamilon, only attacks giant viruses, the ones we talked about earlier that are already bigger than most bacteria. Nature built a food chain inside the invisible world. Bacteria, regular phages, virophages, sometimes even smaller parasites on the virophages. There are layers upon layers of predation and protection, all happening in a space smaller than the period at the end of this sentence. I find this endlessly comforting. Even at the very bottom of the ladder of life, nothing is absolute ruler. Everything has something that can humble it. Power is always shared, even among things too small to have hearts. Tonight, when you feel overwhelmed by the big things in the world, remember the virophage quietly riding on the back of its larger cousin, whispering, "Not so fast." Balance finds a way, always. Now let's drift to places where time itself seems to pause. There are viruses that infect extremophiles in salt flats, in boiling acid pools, in radioactive waste. Some of them can go centuries without a host. One, a phage that attacks halobacteria in the Dead Sea, was found in crystals of salt that formed 200 million years ago, back when dinosaurs were just getting started. When scientists dissolved those ancient crystals in modern water, the phage woke up and infected brand new bacteria as if no time had passed. 200 million years asleep inside a grain of salt smaller than a sesame seed. Others live in Arctic ice and only replicate when summer meltwater creates tiny liquid pockets for a few weeks every century. They wait patiently through darkness and cold that would shatter any other form of life. Their genetic clocks tick so slowly we barely register the movement. Imagine being so still that 100 human lifetimes feel like one long afternoon nap. When the ice finally opens, they stretch, find a host, make a few copies, and settle back into stillness, satisfied. There is something deeply peaceful about this rhythm. While we rush and worry and check our phones, these viruses practice the art of true rest. They remind us that hurry is not a law of nature. Sometimes the most successful strategy is simply to wait until the world is ready for you again. Tonight, let their patience seep into your bones, that you don't have to solve everything before sleep. Some things are meant to wait for the right season, the right warmth, the right light. Breathe out and let 100 quiet years fit into one slow exhale. Imagine standing in the Sahara, sand stretching gold and endless in every direction. Nothing grows, the sun burns the ground so hard it cracks. Yet even here, life finds a way, and viruses are part of the secret. There are plants called resurrection plants that curl into dry brown balls and look completely dead for years. When a rare rain finally comes, they unfurl green in hours. Inside their cells lives a gentle virus that switches on drought survival genes the moment water disappears. It tells the plant Close your stomata, thicken your walls, hoard every drop. Without that viral coach, the plant would cook from the inside out. In the Namib Desert, there are microbes that live entirely on fog. Morning mist rolls in from the Atlantic, and tiny bacteria on sand grains drink it like champagne. A virus keeps their population just low enough that they never strip the sand bare. In the Atacama, the driest place on Earth, viruses help cyanobacteria form biological soil crusts that stop the wind from blowing the desert away. One rainfall every 10 years is enough because the viruses taught their hosts how to wait. These partnerships are older than any desert we know. They were here when the Sahara was green and lush, when hippos wallowed where camels now walk. When the rains stopped, the virus and the plant renegotiated their contract. I will help you survive the long thirst if you help me survive inside you. They kept their promise. Today you can buy little resurrection plants in pots, leave them dry for months and watch them rise again with a single splash of water, whispering thanks to the virus that never abandoned them. When life feels barren, remember the desert plants curled tight around their invisible friends, dreaming of rain. Endurance is not solitary. Even in the harshest places, something small is holding your hand. Every time you sneeze, you launch a fleet. A single uncovered sneeze releases 40,000 droplets that can travel 6 meters in seconds. Inside those droplets ride millions of viruses, each one a perfect copy of the one that tickled your nose. They surf the air currents like dandelion seeds, some landing on doorknobs, some riding the elevator up 20 floors, some drifting out an open window to begin a journey across the city. One cough on a Tokyo subway has been modeled, reaching Los Angeles in a week, carried by passengers who never felt sick. But most never make it. Sunlight breaks them apart in minutes. Dry air shrivels their coats. Your breath is warm and wet, perfect for travel, but the world outside is hostile. Still, enough survive that a single infected person can seed an entire continent in days. It's terrifying and beautiful the way innocence becomes reach. A child laughing in a supermarket, a lover's soft exhale during a kiss, a stranger's quiet cough on a bus. Each one is a message in a bottle thrown into the wind. And yet we still hug, we still kiss, we still crowd into concerts and cafes, because the same droplets that carry harm also carry the codes that teach our immune systems to recognize family. Every shared breath is a tiny act of trust. The viruses know this. They have been shaping human behavior for millennia, teaching us to cover our mouths, to greet with elbows during bad seasons, to leave soup on a neighbor's porch when they're sick. They are the invisible choreographers of politeness. Tonight, when you breathe out into the dark, picture your exhale as a silver thread connecting you to everyone who will breathe this same air tomorrow. Some threads carry warnings, some carry immunity. All of them carry the quiet proof that we were never meant to live sealed away from one another. Finally tonight, let's talk about the quiet partnership happening right now in the warm, dark tunnel of your intestines. You have about 2 kilograms of bacteria down there, a whole ecosystem that digests food, makes vitamins, and keeps pathogens out. And living among them, outnumbering them 10 to 1, are viruses, mostly phages that hunt bacteria. They are the wolves in the forest, keeping any one species from taking over. When you eat yogurt or kimchi, you're adding new bacteria, but you're also adding their viruses. When you take antibiotics and the bacterial cities collapse, the phages go hungry and die off too, which is why your gut feels empty and strange for weeks afterward. Scientists now think many cases of irritable bowel and even obesity trace back to damaged viral communities in the gut. The viruses aren't just regulators, they're teachers. They carry genes that let good bacteria ferment fiber into butyrate, the molecule that keeps your colon cells healthy and calm. There's a phage called crassphage that lives in 90% of humans on Earth. We only discovered it in 2014 because it's so common we assumed it was human DNA. It's been with us so long we don't know where it ends and we begin. Some researchers call the gut virome our second immune system because it remembers bacterial enemies even when our white blood cells forget. So while you lie here, a gentle conversation is happening 30 feet of tubing away from your brain. Viruses are whispering to bacteria, bacteria are whispering to your cells, and everyone is trying to keep the peace. You will never feel most of this negotiation, yet it decides whether you wake up bloated or energized, calm or anxious. It's love at the microbial level, patient and wordless and constant. Let that love hold you now. Every breath, every heartbeat, every slow wave of peristalsis is accompanied by an invisible choir singing you into balance. You are not a single organism tonight. You are a symphony, and the quietest instruments are often the ones that keep the whole song from falling apart. Sleep inside their music. You are perfectly, beautifully accompanied. Deep beneath the forest floor, in the damp darkness where tree roots tangle like old friends, something quiet and beautiful is happening. Mushrooms, those pale, silent creatures that appear overnight, are not alone. Inside their delicate cells live viruses that have chosen partnership over destruction. Some of these fungal viruses are so gentle they never kill their host. They simply ride along, helping the mushroom survive drought or cold by switching on hidden genes that thicken cell walls or store extra sugar. Others defend their mushroom the way guard dogs defend a house. If a more dangerous virus tries to invade, the resident virus wakes up and floods the cell with protective proteins, sacrificing itself so the mushroom lives. In the Pacific Northwest, scientists found a virus living inside a fungus that grows on Douglas fir trees. This fungus normally kills young trees, but when the virus is present, the fungus becomes mild. It still colonizes the roots, but instead of strangling the tree, it forms a symbiotic relationship, trading nutrients for sugar. Forests full of infected fungus grow taller and healthier than forests without it. The virus turned a killer into a gardener. Even the famous zombie ant fungus, Ophiocordyceps, the one that makes ants climb to the perfect height and lock their jaws before sprouting a spore stalk from their heads, has its own virus, keeping it in check. When the virus load is high, the fungus grows slower, infects fewer ants, and the jungle doesn't become a graveyard. Balance again. The mushroom viruses are the unseen shepherds of the underworld, making sure no single species writes the whole story. Next time you walk through woods after rain and see mushrooms glowing like tiny moons on the forest floor, remember each one is a quiet embassy where viruses and fungi have been negotiating peace for longer than humans have had language. The smell of wet earth you love so much? Part of it is their breath, sweetened by viral diplomacy. Let that scent carry you to sleep tonight. Imagine standing on a beach at dawn, waves soft and silver, when suddenly the wind picks up. It lifts fine sand, leaf fragments, pollen, and with them millions of viruses. They rise in invisible clouds and travel. One puff from an African savanna can cross the Atlantic and land in the Amazon 3 days later. Scientists collect these airborne viruses with drones flying at 10,000 feet and find the same ones that live in soil, in oceans, in human lungs. The air is not empty, it is a slow-moving river of life. Some of these travelers are plant viruses looking for new fields. One called cucumber mosaic virus has been caught riding the jet stream from Asia to California. Others are phages that will rain down into the ocean and find bacteria waiting. A few are human viruses on holiday, carried by dust kicked up by a coughing child in a market halfway around the world. They can stay infectious for days, sometimes weeks, protected inside tiny protein cages that shrug off UV light and dryness. There is something deeply poetic about this. Every breath you take has already been somewhere else, has carried stories older than borders. When you feel the breeze on your face tonight, you are being touched by the Sahara, by Siberian tundra, by the breath of strangers who will never know your name. Viruses are the original frequent flyers, no passport required. They remind us that separation is an illusion. The wind does not respect walls or oceans or fear. It simply moves, and life moves with it. Close your eyes and picture a small laboratory in 1796. A country doctor named Edward Jenner has heard rumours that milkmaids who catch cowpox never get smallpox. He takes pus from a milkmaid's sore, scratches it into the arm of an 8-year-old boy named James Phipps, and waits. Weeks later, he exposes the boy to real smallpox. Nothing happens. The boy is immune. That gentle cowpox virus, a distant cousin of one of the greatest killers in history, became the world's first vaccine. The word vaccine comes from vacca, Latin for cow, because a virus that normally lived happily in cattle decided to jump species and, in doing so, handed humanity the key to ending smallpox forever. 200 years later, we eradicated it completely. The last natural case was in 1977. A virus that once blinded and scarred millions now exists only in 2 freezers, watched over like a sleeping dragon we finally tamed. Every childhood shot you ever cried over is a descendant of that one quiet act of courage, using a mild virus to teach the body how to fight. Measles, polio, hepatitis, rubella, viruses that used to fill orphanages and iron lungs, now bow to their gentler cousins grown in eggs or cell cultures. The terror and the beauty are the same thread. A virus can destroy a civilization or save it, depending on whether we listen. Tonight, somewhere, a child is falling asleep without fear of polio because a virus was taught kindness. That is one of the gentlest miracles humans and viruses have ever written together. Under the Antarctic ice shelf, where the water is -2 degrees and blacker than space, giant viruses sleep inside crystals older than most nations. Some of these viruses are so large they have their own parasites. When a tiny crack forms and seawater seeps in, they wake slowly, like bears after winter. One, called mollivirus, was found in 30,000-year-old ice beside the frozen body of a woolly rhino. Scientists grew it in a dish and watched it infect modern amoebas as if the ice age ended yesterday. These giants carry genes we have never seen in any living thing. Genes for building tiny protein factories, for repairing DNA damaged by radiation, for surviving pressures that would crush submarines. Some researchers quietly hope that one day we might borrow those genes to help astronauts survive on Mars, or to cure human diseases we haven't even named yet. The ice is a library written in frozen viruses, and every year the library loses another shelf to melting. There is a strange comfort in knowing that beneath miles of ice, life has been waiting patiently for someone to come read its stories. The same cold that preserves a mammoth carcass also preserves the microscopic companions that lived in its blood. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is forgotten. The planet keeps perfect archives, and sometimes, when the temperature rises just enough, it opens a page and whispers, "Still here." Stand on a hill at night and look up. Somewhere above the clouds, tiny water droplets are forming around specks of dust. Many of those specks are viruses lifted from the ocean. Marine bacteria get infected, burst, and release not just new viruses but also proteins that love to bond with water. These proteins become the hearts of cloud droplets. Billions of droplets join together into clouds, and clouds become rain. One type of virus, a phage that attacks Pseudomonas bacteria in the sea, is especially good at this. Scientists estimate that 20% of the clouds over the oceans owe their existence, at least in part, to viruses helping water condense. Without them, rain would be rarer, deserts larger, rivers slower. The same organisms that can make you sick with a stomach bug also help fill the rivers you drink from. Next time you feel rain on your face, know that some of those drops began their journey inside a bacterium floating in the Pacific, lifted by a virus that only wanted to finish its life cycle. The sky is stitched together with invisible threads of infection and release. Every storm is, in a quiet way, a collaboration between the smallest and the largest forces on Earth. You are being showered with stories that started before you were born and will continue long after you're gone. Let the rain speak them softly against your window tonight. You are part of the conversation. Walk with me into the warm, dark country inside your belly, where 2 kilograms of bacteria live like quiet villagers in a hidden valley. They have names you'll never pronounce, jobs you'll never see, and they keep you alive in ways you only notice when something goes wrong. But tonight, I want to introduce you to their shepherds, the viruses that patrol this village day and night. Most of them are bacteriophages, tiny lunar-lander shapes with 6 legs and a long tail. They land on a bacterium, drill a hole, and pour their DNA inside like a pirate boarding a ship. 30 minutes later, the bacterium bursts open, and 100 new phages sail out to continue the hunt. This happens trillions of times an hour while you read this sentence. It sounds violent, but it's actually the gentlest form of population control imaginable. Without the phages, one kind of bacteria would multiply until it filled every corner, crowded out the good neighbors, and turned your gut into a slum. Instead, the viruses keep the streets clean, the markets balanced, the peace quiet. When you eat fermented foods, kimchi, kefir, sauerkraut, you're swallowing entire peacekeeping armies. When you take an antibiotic and feel your stomach rebel for days afterward, it's partly because the phages died along with the bacteria they were regulating. Scientists now think many cases of bloating, anxiety, even autoimmune disease begin when the viral shepherds are missing. There's a phage called crassphage that lives in over 70% of humans worldwide. We only discovered it a few years ago because it was so ordinary we mistook it for human DNA. It has been with us so long that our gut literally expects its company. Your microbiome is not a collection of bacteria. It's a 3-way dance: bacteria, viruses, and you. And right now, while your head rests on the pillow, that dance is slow and perfect, keeping inflammation low, training your immune cells to recognize friend from foe, even sending serotonin to your brain so you can fall asleep. You will never feel most of these tiny acts of kindness, but they feel you. Every calm breath you take tonight is their lullaby back to you. Picture a single virus drifting on a sunbeam, no bigger than a wisp of smoke. It has no wings, no engine, yet it will circle the globe faster than any jet. One cough in a crowded train station in Seoul releases a cloud that rides the ventilation system, slips through cracks, hitches a ride on a passenger's coat, and lands in a rice field in Vietnam 2 days later. Another cough in a classroom in Sao Paulo seeds a playground in Toronto a week after. Viruses are the original world travelers, crossing oceans inside the breath of strangers who never knew they were couriers. They don't need passports or tickets. They simply wait for the invisible highways we create every time we gather: airports, stadiums, festivals, weddings, funerals. A single infected person boarding a long-haul flight can release enough virus to seed an entire continent if conditions are right. Scientists tracked one measles outbreak back to a single traveler who infected 88 people in 4 countries without ever feeling sick herself. The virus used her like a dandelion uses the wind. But there is tenderness hidden in this terrifying reach. The same currents that spread illness also spread immunity. Every shared breath is a coin with 2 sides. When children play together and swap colds, they are quietly vaccinating each other against worse things later. When you kiss someone, you are exchanging microbial peace treaties that will protect both of you for years. We fear the speed, but the speed is also how love moves, how grandparents meet babies, how strangers become neighbors, how humanity stays one shaky, connected family. Tonight, when you breathe out into the dark, imagine your exhale joining a river of air that will touch someone on the other side of the planet by morning. You are part of their weather, and they are part of yours. The world is smaller than we pretend, and gentler too. Look very, very closely at the moment a virus meets a cell. It's one of the most graceful dances in nature. The virus drifts like a snowflake until one of its spike proteins brushes a receptor on the cell surface, the exact shape it has been looking for across oceans of blood or mucus. It's a key sliding into a lock that evolved millions of years for this exact embrace. Click. The capsid softens, the membrane folds around it like silk, and the virus slips inside without breaking anything. No explosion, no violence, just a quiet merging. Inside, the cell's own machinery starts reading the viral genome the way a pianist reads sheet music. Ribosomes that usually build human proteins now build viral ones, gently, faithfully. New capsids assemble themselves like origami in fast forward. Within hours, the cell is full of perfect new viruses lined up like pearls. Then, in many cases, the cell simply opens and releases them. No dramatic burst, just a soft sigh as the membrane parts. The new viruses drift away to find their own partners, and the old cell quietly recycles itself. Scientists filming this with super-resolution microscopes describe it as beautiful. The colors, when they dye the proteins, are pastel pinks and blues, movements slow and deliberate. It looks less like invasion and more like courtship. Even when the outcome is disease, the entry itself is tender. Nature rarely shouts when a whisper will do. If you could shrink down and watch this ballet tonight inside your own throat, you would see thousands of these quiet waltzes happening right now, some harmful, most harmless, or perfectly choreographed. Let the grace of it carry you. Nothing in your body is at war in the way we imagine. Everything is dancing, even when the music is in a minor key. There are viruses that specialize in one thing and one thing only, killing cancer cells. They are called oncolytic viruses, and they are some of the gentlest assassins alive. One of them, a modified herpes virus called T-VEC, was approved for melanoma in 2015. Doctors inject it directly into tumors, and the virus ignores healthy skin but falls in love with cancer cells. It slips inside, replicates, and when the cancer cell bursts, it releases not just new viruses, but a flare that wakes up the immune system. Look over here, enemy base. The immune cells that have been sleepwalking past the tumor suddenly see it clearly and attack. Patients who were given months to live watch their tumors shrink and vanish. Another virus, reovirus, naturally prefers the exact mutations that make cancer cells immortal. It leaves normal cells completely alone. A third, Newcastle disease virus, has been used for decades in clinical trials because it only replicates in cells that have broken growth controls, cancer's signature. These viruses aren't science fiction. They are already saving lives in hospitals right now, quietly, with no fanfare. And researchers are teaching them new tricks, arming them with genes that make cancer cells glow for surgeons, or carry chemotherapy directly to the tumor like a Trojan horse. The same creatures that once terrified us are learning to heal the diseases we fear most. Tonight, somewhere a patient is falling asleep without pain for the first time in years because a virus chose the right side. Let that thought settle softly. Even the smallest predators can become protectors when the dance changes key. Finally tonight, let's sit quietly with a secret that took scientists decades to believe. Thousands of years ago, a virus infected a wolf. It didn't kill the wolf, instead it settled into the germline, eggs or sperm, and passed down through generations. Over time, that virus helped turn wild, fearful wolves into animals that could read human faces, wag their tails, and sit by our fires. The difference between wolf and dog is written in part in ancient viral DNA. The same thing happened with every domesticated animal: cows, pigs, horses, cats. Their friendlier behavior, their smaller teeth, their tolerance for crowded human life, all carry echoes of viral insertions that softened aggression and boosted social skills. One retrovirus in particular, called CFERV, is found in every dog on Earth, but not in wolves. It changes how oxytocin and dopamine work in the brain, the chemicals of trust and bonding. Your dog curling up at your feet tonight is living proof that a virus can fall in love with a species and decide to stay forever. The terror of infection became the tenderness of companionship. Every time a puppy looks at you with those impossibly soft eyes, part of what you're seeing is a love letter written in genetic code millions of years ago. We feared the wolf, then we invited it in, and a virus helped close the door behind it gently. That is one of the quietest, longest romances in history. May the same gentle rewriting happen in your dreams tonight. Old fears softening, new trust growing, ancient visitors becoming family. Sleep inside that love story. You have always been welcomed home. Imagine a place colder and darker than any graveyard we have ever built. Beneath the Arctic Ocean, locked inside permafrost that has not seen sunlight for hundreds of thousands of years, there is a library no one knew existed until recently. It is not made of books or stone tablets. It is made of viruses, perfectly preserved, perfectly still, waiting like seeds in a pharaoh's tomb. Every spoonful of that ancient mud contains thousands of them, some older than our species, some older than trees. In 2014, a team carefully thawed a sample taken 30 meters deep from soil that last felt warmth when Neanderthals were still painting caves. Inside, they found a virus that infects amoebas. They placed a modern amoeba in the dish. The 30,000-year-old virus woke up, recognized its old friend across an ocean of time, and infected it without hesitation. Since then, they have found dozens more. One from Siberian caribou dung, 8,000 years old. One from the lens of a frozen mammoth's eye, 42,000 years old. One from Greenland ice that formed before the last ice age even began. These are not damaged relics. They are functional, ready, alive in every way that matters. Their outer coats are still glossy under the electron microscope, their DNA still readable. They are time capsules that open themselves. The terrifying part is simple. The permafrost is melting. Every summer now, another meter thaws and slumps into rivers. Viruses that have never met a human immune system are suddenly free to travel. Most will find no host and die quietly in sunlight. But some might recognize something close enough. A reindeer, a musk ox, a child playing by a stream. We do not know which ones. We only know the library doors are opening page by page without anyone in charge of the keys. Yet there is also deep beauty here. These viruses are the only witnesses left to entire lost worlds. They carry memories of climates that no longer exist, of creatures whose bones we dig up in wonder. They are the closest thing we have to messages from the deep past written by life itself. When one wakes up and stretches after 40,000 years of sleep, it is as if the Pleistocene leans over our shoulder and whispers, "I was here. I never really left." The same cold that preserved the mammoths preserved their companions. Nothing is ever truly gone. The earth keeps perfect, patient archives, and sometimes, when we least expect it, it reads us a line or two. Tonight, while you sleep, part of an older earth is still breathing under the ice, dreaming of warmth. Walk with me now through an autumn forest where the leaves are gold and red, and the air smells like wood smoke and rain. Every footstep you take disturbs a faint mist of viruses rising from the moss. They have been here longer than the oaks above your head. Some live inside the fungi that weave white threads through the soil like secret lace. Others ride inside beetles and deer and the quiet breath of owls. When the wind moves through the branches, it lifts them gently, the way it lifts milkweed seeds, and carries them to the next clearing, the next valley, the next continent. There is a virus that only infects the fungus that causes Dutch elm disease. Without it, half the forests of Europe would be skeletons by now. Another helps lichens survive on bare rock, slowly turning stone into soil. One quiet phage keeps the bacteria in the roots of pine trees from growing too greedy, so the trees can share water during drought. The forest is not just trees and animals, it is a conversation carried on viral wings. Every gust you feel on your cheek is a sentence in that conversation. Stand still for a moment and listen. You will not hear them, of course, but they are speaking. In spring, they help mushrooms push up through the leaf litter. In summer, they drift inside the cool breath of ferns. In autumn, they ride the falling leaves like tiny parachutes. In winter, they sleep inside seeds and bark, waiting for the next thaw. The forest smells the way it does because of them, earthy, sweet, alive. When you inhale that smell, you are breathing in centuries of quiet negotiation. The same air that filled the lungs of the first wolves to walk these woods still carries their microscopic companions. You are never walking alone. You are walking inside a cathedral built of patience and balance, and the softest voices in the choir are the ones you cannot see. Let that knowledge settle over you like the hush between heartbeats. The forest is holding you, and it has been holding everything that ever lived here, long before you arrived and long after you leave. Sleep inside its breathing. Come closer now, because I want to tell you how viruses taught us to rewrite life itself. In the early 2000s, a young scientist named Jennifer Doudna was studying how bacteria defend themselves against viruses. She discovered something astonishing. Bacteria keep little mug shots of every virus that ever attacked them, stored as snippets of DNA called CRISPR. When the same virus comes back, the bacterium pulls out the matching mugshot, makes an RNA copy, and sends a protein scissor called Cas9 to cut the invader's genome exactly where the photo says. It was the most elegant immune system anyone had ever seen. Then Jennifer and her colleague Emmanuel Charpentier had a wild idea. What if we could load any photo we wanted into that system? What if we could tell Cas9 to cut human DNA at the exact spot that causes sickle cell anemia, or cystic fibrosis, or Huntington's? In 2012, they published the method. It was as if someone had handed humanity a word processor for the book of life. Suddenly we could find any typo in any gene and fix it, not someday, but now. The first child cured of sickle cell using CRISPR was born in 2017. By 2023, the treatment was approved. Children who would have lived in pain now run and play like any other kid. Doctors are editing immune cells to hunt cancer more fiercely. Farmers are growing rice that survives flooding and mushrooms that never brown. A virus that once terrified bacteria became the tool that lets us heal inherited disease, feed billions, maybe one day bring back extinct species. Every time a parent holds a baby who will never suffer the way they did, part of that embrace belongs to an ancient arms race between bacteria and the viruses that hunted them. Terror became wonder. Defense became gift. Tonight, somewhere, a researcher is falling asleep at her desk, dreaming of the next edit that will ease someone's pain. And somewhere else, a child who was born with a broken gene is sleeping soundly for the first time because a virus taught us how to mend what was torn. Picture a reef at twilight, the corals glowing soft pinks and greens, fish darting like sparks. It looks peaceful, but it is breathing through a partnership most people never notice. Corals are animals, but they survive because of tiny algae called zooxanthellae that live inside their cells and photosynthesize, giving the coral food in exchange for a safe home. When the water gets too warm, the coral panics and expels the algae, turning ghostly white. We call it bleaching, and it kills reefs. But there is a quiet helper in this story: viruses. Some phages infect the algae and keep their numbers balanced so the coral is never overwhelmed. Others carry genes that let the algae tolerate higher temperatures. When a reef recovers from bleaching faster than expected, scientists often find new viral strains that moved in during the crisis and taught everyone how to cope. One virus discovered in the Red Sea helps its algal host make a sunscreen molecule that protects both the algae and the coral from UV light. Another switches on heat shock proteins the moment the water rises half a degree. Reefs that have diverse viral communities recover better. Reefs without them die. The same viruses that can wipe out bacterial blooms in hours are, in other moments, the difference between a living rainbow and a boneyard underwater. They are the unseen therapists of the ocean, helping coral and algae talk through stress instead of walking away from each other. Tonight, far beneath the waves, a coral polyp is breathing easier because a virus it will never know decided to stay and help. The same ocean that cradles ships and storms also cradles these microscopic mediators, keeping the most beautiful gardens on Earth alive one quiet gene at a time. Let the rhythm of the reef rock you to sleep, slow, steady, ancient, and kind. Finally tonight, let us sit with one of the quietest turning points in human history. In December 2019, a new virus slipped from an animal into a human in Wuhan, China. Within months, it had circled the globe faster than any pathogen before it. Hospitals overflowed, cities went silent. Grandparents waved through windows. We learned words like aerosol and fomate and N95. More than 20 million people, maybe far more, did not live to see 2023. But something else happened that had never happened before. Scientists sequenced the entire genome of the virus in days, not months. They shared it openly. Within a year, one single year, multiple vaccines were designed, tested, and injected into billions of arms. The fastest vaccine in history before that had taken 4 years. This one took less than one. We watched grandmothers hug grandchildren again, concerts returned, planes filled. The virus is still with us, but it no longer rules us. That speed was only possible because decades earlier we had studied HIV, influenza, Ebola, Zika. Every scary outbreak taught us one more trick. And because we had learned from viruses themselves how to edit genes, how to grow synthetic proteins, how to train immune systems with mRNA. The same creatures that caused the crisis also handed us the tools to end it. A virus forced humanity to grow up faster than we ever had, to cooperate across borders, to fund science like never before, to remember that we are one species sharing one thin layer of air. Tonight, somewhere a young person who would have grown up orphaned is laughing with friends because a vaccine reached their village in time. Somewhere, a scientist who worked 100-hour weeks is finally sleeping without nightmares. Somewhere a child is being born into a world that knows now how fragile and how strong we are at the same time. The virus was a teacher in the harshest school imaginable. It took more than it ever should have, but it left us wiser, kinder, and far more capable of protecting each other next time. That is the terrifying and beautiful truth. Even the worst storms carry seeds of better weather. May you sleep tonight inside the calm after that storm, held gently by everyone who learned, everyone who helped, everyone who is still here, because love and science moved faster than fear. You are safe, you are loved, and tomorrow is already becoming gentler because of what we endured together. Good night. Close your eyes and feel the soft warmth of your own breath leaving your lips. That gentle cloud you just released is not empty. It is alive with viruses, thousands of them, maybe millions. Most are harmless passengers that have lived quietly in your throat, your saliva, your lungs since childhood. Some are brand new visitors you picked up on the bus or from a friend's laugh. They swirl around your face like invisible fireflies, catching the faint light of the street lamp outside your window, then drift outward into the night. In a few seconds, they have spread across the room. In a minute, they ride the air currents through the cracked window and join the slow river of breath that circles the planet. Every person alive right now is doing the same thing. 7 billion quiet exhalations, each one a tiny galaxy of viruses looking for new homes. Most will settle on curtains, on houseplants, on the fur of sleeping cats. A few will find another pair of lungs and set up residence. Some will simply dissolve in moonlight and become food for bacteria on a windowsill. It is the softest migration on Earth, happening every moment of every day, and you are both traveler and destination. There is no border between your body and the world when you breathe. The same air that once passed through a child in Lagos, a monk in Tibet, a whale surfacing off Iceland, is now touching the inside of your chest. Viruses are the notes written on that air. Some say danger, some say immunity, most say nothing at all. They are the reason your immune system stays in training, the reason you rarely get the same cold twice, the reason humanity has survived every plague so far. Tonight, as you lie perfectly still, you are dancing with the entire breathing planet, one gentle exhale at a time. Let that dance rock you deeper into sleep. Imagine shrinking until you are small enough to stand on a single cell of your own skin. Look around. The surface is not smooth. It is a rolling landscape of ridges and valleys, warm and slightly damp, lit by the faint glow of your body heat. And it is crowded. Viruses live here the way birds live in a meadow, some perched quietly, some hopping from ridge to ridge, some sleeping inside cracks. Most of them arrived years ago and never left. They are permanent citizens of the country called you. Your skin is their desert, their ocean, their forest floor. They coat your forearms, nestle between your fingers, drift across your eyelids every time you blink. Many are phages that hunt the bacteria that would otherwise cause odor or infection. Others are tiny retroviruses that settled into your DNA before you were born and now help regulate inflammation so your skin doesn't flare at every breeze. A few are just resting, waiting for a cut, a scratch, a moment when the barrier opens and they can slip deeper inside. Scientists who swabbed identical twins found that even their skin viruses are more similar than any two unrelated people, proof that these quiet companions are family heirlooms, passed down with hugs and shared towels and bedtime kisses. Your mother's skin viruses colonized you in the first minutes after birth. Your lovers are mingling with yours right now. When you hold a child's hand, you are exchanging citizenship in each other's invisible nations. There is something deeply tender about this. You carry on your surface a living record of every person you have ever touched, gently. Your skin is a love letter, written in protein and DNA, constantly updated. Tonight, every place your body touches the sheets is leaving behind a faint signature that says, "I was here and I was kind." Let that signature cradle you. You are never as alone as you think. Come with me now to a quiet laboratory where something once unthinkable is becoming ordinary. A scientist opens a freezer, takes out a tiny vial, and inside swims a virus that has been stripped of every harmful gene. It is an empty shell, a perfect envelope waiting for new instructions. She loads it with a corrected piece of DNA, the healthy version of a gene that causes blindness or muscular dystrophy or a heart that beats wrong. Then she injects it into a child's eye or arm or vein. The virus drifts through the bloodstream like a benevolent postman, finds the cells it was designed to love, slips inside, and quietly delivers its package. The broken gene is replaced. The child sees light for the first time, or walks without falling, or grows up instead of fading away. This is called gene therapy, and it is no longer science fiction. Lux Turner, the first approved treatment, restored sight to children born with a disease that left them blind from birth. Zolgensma stopped spinal muscular atrophy in its tracks with one infusion, turning babies who would never have sat up into toddlers racing around playrooms. Hundreds of trials are running right now for diseases we once called incurable. And every single one of them works because a virus, once the symbol of terror, agreed to become a healer. The same creatures that brought us smallpox and influenza now carry hope in their hollow hearts. They have learned, or rather we have taught them, a new kind of dance. Where once they tore cells apart, they now mend them. Where once they hijacked machinery for destruction, they now deliver repair kits. It is the longest redemption story in biology. Predator becoming protector, enemy becoming friend. Tonight, somewhere a parent is crying quiet tears of gratitude because a virus chose mercy. May that mercy settle over you like the softest blanket. The world is learning how to heal, one rewritten gene at a time. Picture the moment life on Earth first flickered into being almost 4 billion years ago. The oceans were warm, volcanic, electric. Simple molecules bumped together until one day something new appeared, a strand of RNA that could copy itself. It was fragile, naked, exposed to harsh light and heat. Then, almost immediately, it wrapped itself in a coat of protein. That coat was the first virus. Some scientists believe viruses did not come after life. They came with it, or even before it. They were the original replicators, the wandering genes that hopped from one chemical soup to another, trading pieces, inventing complexity. Without them, DNA might never have been invented. Without them, cells might never have learned to cooperate. Every major leap in evolution, from single cells to multicellular creatures, from fish to land animals, from apes to us, carries viral fingerprints. 8% of your genome is old viral code that stopped replicating and started helping. Some of it builds the placenta that once nourished you in the womb. Some of it protects your brain from inflammation. Some of it simply sits quietly like an ancestor who moved in and never left. You are not a human with a few viral souvenirs. You are a collaboration that began before the first coral reef, before the first forest, before the first song. Viruses did not hijack us, they co-authored us. Every time your heart beats, every time you dream, you are the latest chapter in a love story that started in boiling seawater and has never once ended. Tonight, feel that ancient partnership breathing with you. You were built by many hands, and some of those hands were smaller than moonlight. Finally, drift with me into the invisible ocean that surrounds us all. It has no surface, no bottom, no shores. It flows through lungs and leaves, through soil and seawater, through every living thing and every quiet space between. It is made of viruses, trillions upon trillions upon trillions of them. There are more viruses on Earth than stars in the observable universe. They outnumber every bacterium, every plant, every animal, every human, by factors too large to speak aloud. They are the dark matter of the living world, unseen but holding everything together. This ocean is not hostile. It is the original internet, the first communication network. Genes move through it like messages, from coral to algae, from wolf to dog, from mother to child, across the placenta. It carries warnings and solutions, memory and innovation. It keeps populations in balance, ecosystems in motion, evolution itself turning. When a new threat appears, an antibiotic, a warming ocean, a deadly fungus, the viral ocean responds faster than anything else, rewriting code, delivering fixes, finding paths through impossible problems. You are floating in it right now. Every breath draws it in, every exhalation gives back to it. You are not separate from this ocean. You are one of its waves. And tonight, as you let go of the day, the ocean is holding you perfectly. Nothing is asked of you except to rest. The small storytellers have been singing since before the first star lit, and they will keep singing long after the last human falls asleep. Their song is gentle, patient, endless. You are safe inside it. You are known. You are carried. Good night, dear one. Let the invisible ocean rock you all the way down into the softest dark, where viruses and dreams speak the same quiet language, and every breath is a promise that tomorrow will still be here, still turning, still kind. Sleep long and deep. The smallest storytellers are watching over you, and they always will. Walk with me to a quiet beach at the edge of winter, where the waves barely whisper and the sand is cold under bare feet. You bend down and scoop a handful of seawater, just 1 milliliter, no more than a single drop on your fingertip. Hold it up to the pale light. Inside that drop live 250 million viruses. 250 million tiny stories, each one a perfect geometric poem drifting in salt water older than mountains. If you could make them visible, the drop would shimmer like a galaxy caught in a tear. Most of them will never touch a human. Their entire existence is spent hunting marine bacteria, keeping the bottom of the food chain in perfect balance. Every second, across all the oceans, they infect and burst 20% of the bacteria alive at that moment. Without that gentle culling, the seas would choke on bacterial blooms, and the plankton that give us half our oxygen would starve. The same viruses that can empty a lung can also fill the sky with breathable air. One drop, one breath, one invisible mercy repeated a sextillion times a day. Scientists who study this oceanic virome say it is the largest reservoir of genetic diversity on Earth. Every milliliter contains thousands of viral kinds we have never catalogued. Some carry genes that let bacteria eat plastic, or survive acid, or turn sunlight into fuel. When we one day need to clean our oceans or feed a warming planet, the answers will probably come from viruses floating right now in that cold water on your skin. The ocean is not only the cradle of life, it is still the library where life keeps writing new chapters, and the librarians are smaller than moonlight. Stand there a moment longer and let the wind take the drop from your hand. It rises, evaporates, becomes cloud, becomes rain somewhere far away. The viruses travel with it. Nothing is ever wasted. The same ocean that holds your reflection also holds tomorrow's solutions. Let that thought carry you gently inward, the way the tide carries shells back to the deep. Now come inside, to the soft lamplight of a hospital room where a baby has just been born. The delivery was difficult, the mother exhausted, but the child is perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a fierce, small cry. In the first minute of life, before the first feed, before the first bath, something invisible and beautiful begins. The mother's birth canal, her skin, her very breath, have been preparing for this moment for 9 months. As the baby passes through, billions of bacteria and viruses coat its body like a baptism in an ancient tongue. Within hours, the newborn's gut, once sterile, becomes a thriving ecosystem, and riding in with the bacteria come the viruses, phages mostly, quiet shepherds that will spend a lifetime making sure no single bacterial tribe grows too strong. Some of them are heirlooms from the mother's own mother, passed down through generations like lullabies. One particular phage, discovered only recently, appears in almost every healthy baby within the first week and stays for life. Scientists call it the guardian phage because when it is missing, the child is far more likely to develop allergies, asthma, even obesity later on. This viral christening is so important that doctors now smear C-section babies with gauze soaked in the mother's vaginal fluids, trying to give back what the scalpel took away. We are learning that love at the very beginning is partly microbial, partly viral, a quiet transfer of protection older than any religion. The same viruses that can bring down empires also stand guard over a newborn's first fragile nights. Every parent who has ever rocked a colicky baby to sleep at 3 a.m. has been helped, without knowing it, by an invisible army that crossed the border between two bodies the moment life began. Tonight, somewhere, a new mother is falling asleep with her child against her chest, both of them breathing in perfect rhythm. And inside that shared breath, the oldest peace treaty on Earth is being renewed, one quiet viral heartbeat at a time. Imagine a single grain of salt no larger than the period at the end of this sentence. Now imagine that grain is 200 million years old, formed when a shallow sea evaporated under a sun that shone on dinosaurs. In 2022, scientists dissolved crystals just like it from a mine in America and found living viruses inside, haloviruses that infect salt-loving archaea. When they placed modern archaea in the dish, the ancient viruses woke up and infected them as casually as if the Triassic ended yesterday. 200 million years. That is older than mammals, older than flowers, older than any bird that ever flew. The viruses survived because salt is the perfect tomb. No water, no movement, no decay. Their protein coats crystallized around their DNA like amber around an insect. Time simply stopped for them, and when time started again, they yawned, stretched, and went back to work. We keep finding more. Viruses in 800,000-year-old ice, viruses in 4 million-year-old lake sediments, viruses trapped in the teeth of frozen Neanderthals. They are not monsters waiting to escape. Most cannot infect anything alive today. But they are postcards from lost worlds, genetic photographs of ecosystems that vanished long ago. When we read their genomes, we see genes that built strange proteins, solved problems we have forgotten even existed. Some of those genes might one day help us survive climate shifts or cure diseases we haven't met yet. There is deep comfort in knowing the Earth never throws anything away. Every epoch, every creature, every quiet partnership is archived somewhere, in salt, in ice, in mud. The planet is a patient librarian, and viruses are some of its oldest books. Tonight, while you sleep, part of the deep past is still breathing, still waiting to be read by someone kind enough to listen. Picture a field of golden wheat swaying under a summer sky. It looks peaceful, perfect, the way bread has looked for 10,000 years. But zoom in, really zoom in until the individual grains become landscapes, and you will see tiny scars, faint mosaic patterns of lighter and darker green. Those patterns are the signature of barley yellow dwarf virus, a gentle artist that has been painting crops since the first farmers saved seed. The virus doesn't kill the wheat, it simply moves in, slows growth a little, changes the shade here and there. Farmers hate it because yields drop 5 or 10%, yet without it something worse might happen. The same virus infects wild grasses and keeps aphid populations in check. Aphids spread far deadlier viruses. When the gentle one is common, the deadly ones have fewer carriers. Fields with a little yellow dwarf often survive outbreaks that wipe out clean crops completely. In the 1960s, plant breeders created wheat that resisted the yellow dwarf virus. Yields went up. Then, 10 years later, a new, lethal virus swept through and destroyed entire harvests because the aphids had nowhere else to go. Farmers quietly went back to growing the slightly infected strains. They learned what nature already knew: perfect health can be fragile. A little controlled sickness is sometimes the strongest medicine. Today, some researchers are deliberately infecting crops with mild viruses the way we vaccinate children. The plants grow a little slower, a little shorter, but they survive drought, frost, and plague better than their perfect cousins. The golden field you pictured is healthier because it carries a quiet scar, proof that it has already met the enemy and learned the steps of the dance. There is wisdom in the imperfect, in the gently marked, in the field that bends instead of breaking. Tonight, when you feel the small imperfections of your own day, the tiredness behind your eyes, the worry you can't quite name, remember the wheat. A little viral yellow in the green is sometimes the difference between standing tall and falling forever. You are stronger for the quiet battles you have already won. Finally tonight, let us rest in one of the gentlest truths of all. Every virus that has ever frightened us began as something else, something curious, something exploratory, something simply trying to continue. The same spike protein that lets a coronavirus enter a lung once let an ancient bat virus swap recipes with a pangolin virus in a warm cave. The same polymerase that copies flu so quickly once helped a bird virus jump to a pig on a quiet farm. Change is what viruses do best. It is their only job, but change is not always catastrophe. The overwhelming majority of viral jumps fizzle out. Most new strains are weaker or cannot spread, or meet immune systems already prepared by vaccines and old infections. And sometimes, more often than the headlines admit, the change is toward gentleness. Myxoma in rabbits, HIV in humans, even SARS-CoV-2 itself. Every year, the dominant lineages are the ones that kill less, because dead hosts don't cough. Evolution does not reward the destroyer forever. It rewards the one who learns to live tomorrow. Viruses are not evil, they are impatient students, constantly taking the test again until they pass. And we, their reluctant teachers, have grown wiser too. Masks, vaccines, antivirals, global sequencing networks that spot new variants while they are still a whisper. Tonight, the dance continues, softer than it was 5 years ago, softer than it was 50 years ago. Somewhere, a new variant is rising that will make the current ones look fierce by comparison, not because it is cruel, but because it has learned the human world is kinder when it asks instead of takes. Let that learning settle over you like the quiet after a long storm. The same force that once emptied cities is teaching itself restraint, and we are teaching it love in return. Every breath you take tonight is safer than the breath your grandparents took at your age, and the breath your grandchildren take will be safer still. Sleep now inside that long, slow gentling. The smallest beings on earth are learning peace, and they are taking us with them. Good night, dear one. The viruses are whispering softer lullabies than they ever have before, and tomorrow they will whisper softer still. You are held in the kindest arms evolution ever grew, ancient, tiny, and finally learning how to love. Walk with me to the edge of a volcanic lake in Iceland, where the water steams and the air smells of sulfur and snow. The temperature at the surface is 95 degrees Celsius, hot enough to boil eggs, yet life thrives here in shimmering colors. Bright greens, oranges, crimson mats of archaea and bacteria that laugh at what we call impossible. And living among them perfectly at home are viruses that love heat the way roses love sun. These thermophilic viruses have proteins that refuse to unravel even when you or I would turn to soup. Some look like tiny lemons with spider legs, others like rigid bottles or spindles. They wait patiently in water that would scald skin from bone, then attached to their archaeal hosts with the calm certainty of old friends. When they replicate, the boiling lake becomes a quiet factory, releasing new viruses that drift upward in warm currents until they cool and fall like snow back into the cauldron. Scientists who study these hot-loving viruses have found ones that can survive being dried, frozen, irradiated, and then boiled again, still infectious. One, discovered in a Yellowstone hot spring, holds the record. It can be heated to 120 degrees Celsius, well above boiling at sea level, and still wake up ready to work. Their enzymes are so stable that we steal them for PCR tests, the same tests that found SARS-CoV-2 in millions of noses. Every time you got a COVID result in 20 minutes, a virus from a boiling hellscape was quietly helping. There is something deeply comforting about this. Life and the viruses that ride alongside it refuse to accept limits. Where we see death, they see home. Where we see the end of possibility, they see Tuesday afternoon. Tonight, when the world feels too heavy, remember the lemon-shaped viruses dancing in water that would dissolve steel. Whatever heat you are carrying, something ancient and unbreakable is already living through worse and calling it beautiful. Come down now from the boiling lake to a quiet meadow in spring where the grass is new and the air smells of rain. A bee lands on a clover flower, legs dusted gold with pollen. Unseen on those hairy legs ride viruses, gentle ones that infect only the bacteria inside the bee's gut. They keep the microbiome balanced so the bee can digest nectar, fight parasites, even smell the right flowers. Without them, the bee weakens, the hive suffers, the meadow loses its hum. One virus in particular, called the deformed wing virus, can be devastating when varroa mites spread it aggressively, but in its mild form, passed quietly from bee to bee on flowers, it acts almost like a vaccine, teaching young bees how to recognize and resist the deadly version. Beekeepers now search for colonies where this gentle strain dominates, because those hives survive winters that kill others. The same virus that collapses colonies in one place becomes guardian angel in another. Flowers themselves carry viruses on petals. Tomato, spotted wilt virus riding on thrips, bumblebee viruses on dandelions. When a bee brushes a petal, it collects more than nectar. It collects stories. The entire meadow is stitched together by these tiny travelers, pollinating immunity along with seeds. Every buzz you hear on a summer day is accompanied by an orchestra too small for ears, but loud enough to keep spring returning. Tonight, somewhere, a single bee is sleeping inside a wooden hive, wings folded, gut full of friendly viruses that will help her fly tomorrow and bring back sweetness for us all. Let that small, perfect partnership rock you. The same forces that can empty a hive can also fill the world with gold. Imagine a cave in southern France, 36,000 years old, walls covered in paintings of bison and lions and handprints blown in red ochre. The artists are gone, their fires long cold, but something they breathed is still here. Scientists who took air samples from deep inside Lascaux and other painted caves found viruses floating in the dust, ancient human viruses, cousins of the ones that once caused colds or herpes in people who mixed pigment with spit and touched the stone. These viruses did not die when the painters did. They dried onto the rock, crystallized in calcium, and waited. When modern air moves through the cave again, they rise like ghosts and drift past the floodlights we installed to admire their maker's work. They cannot infect us anymore. Their hosts are extinct, their proteins too brittle, but their genomes are still readable. When we sequence them, we meet the microbes that lived in the throats of people who watched Ice Age stars and decided to leave beauty behind. Other caves in Spain, in Indonesia, in South Africa, hold the same quiet library. Viruses preserved in bat guano 50,000 years old, viruses trapped in the permafrost dust that drifted into Siberian caves where Denisovans once sheltered. Every breath those ancient humans took is archived in the air we disturb when we walk there now. We are not the first to stand in the dark and feel wonder. We are only the latest to exhale into a conversation that never ended. Tonight, when you switch off the light and the room becomes its own small cave, know that you are breathing inside the longest story ever told. The same air that once carried the viruses of painters who never knew writing is carrying your viruses now. Nothing is lost, everything echoes. Picture a single blade of grass growing through a crack in city concrete. It looks lonely, stubborn, almost heroic, but it is not alone. Living on its surface, inside its cells, riding the wind that bends it, are viruses that have chosen grass as home for longer than cities have existed. One of them, barley stripe mosaic virus, paints faint green stripes no human ever notices. Another helps the grass survive salt from road runoff. A third keeps fungal parasites from rotting the roots. In the 1950s, scientists trying to create perfect virus-free grass for lawns succeeded. The grass grew faster, greener, taller. Then it died. Without its viral companions, it could not handle drought, cold, or the quiet fungal enemies that live in every soil. The supposedly clean grass was fragile as glass. Researchers quietly went back to infected strains. The lawns we walk on barefoot, the golf courses we admire, the pastures that feed cattle, almost all carry their quiet viral scars like medals. We are learning the same lesson with human health. Children raised too clean, without the gentle viral exposures of dirt and pets and shared toys, develop allergies and autoimmune diseases at higher rates. A little controlled mess, a little controlled infection builds resilience. The blade of grass knows this. The child rolling down a hill knows this. Perfection is brittle. A few viral stripes in the green make the whole field stronger. Tonight, when you feel the small imperfections of your own life, the cough you can't shake, the scar that never quite faded, remember the grass. The cracks are where life insists on growing, and the viruses are some of the quiet hands helping it push through stone. Finally, tonight, let us rest in the softest truth of all. Every virus you have ever feared, every headline that kept you awake, every mask you wore, every shot you rolled up your sleeve for, they were all part of a dance older than bones. Viruses and their hosts have been learning each other since the first cell divided. Most of the time the dance is gentle. Most of the time nobody dies. Most of the time the virus simply wants tomorrow, and the host simply wants tomorrow, and tomorrow finds a way for both. When a new virus appears, the first versions are often clumsy, loud, destructive. But give it a year, or 10, or 100, and the music changes. The strains that let their host live long enough to hug someone else are the strains that get to stay. The immune systems that remember without overreacting are the ones that pass their lessons on. Evolution is not a war, it is a very long conversation in a quiet room, and both sides are learning to speak more softly. You are living proof. You have survived every cold, every flu, every scare so far because countless quiet negotiations happened inside you while you slept. Your body keeps a library of every viral visitor, antibodies like pressed flowers in an old book, and the viruses themselves carry memories of every host they ever met. Together you wrote a treaty that says, we will share this breath, this blood, this brief time, and we will try not to hurt each other more than we must. Tonight, that treaty is being renewed in every cell of your body, in every exhale that leaves your lips, in every dream that begins to form behind your eyes. The terrifying and the beautiful are the same story seen from different distances. Up close, it looks like struggle. From far away, it looks like embrace. Sleep now inside that embrace. The viruses that swirl around you and through you are not enemies tonight. They are the oldest companions humanity has ever had, and they are learning slowly, carefully, beautifully how to love us back. Good night, dear one. You are held by something ancient and gentle and endlessly patient. The dance will continue long after your heartbeat slows, but for now it is soft, it is safe, and it is singing you the quietest lullaby ever written, one breath, one virus, one human, one tomorrow at a time. Sleep deep. The world is kinder than it seems and getting kinder still.